All right, g'day. Got 2 days till we leave for the Brisbane Fall Drive show, and I've come down from the Southern Highlands. I've driven down to the Caloff Road warehouse in Berrydale, and in typical Dylan form, I've left every single thing to the last minute. So, need to do Panhards, radius arms, tie rod ends, rack ends, leaf spring bushes, take leaf springs out of the leaf pack. Did I say radius arms? Anyway, we're putting in the new Caloff Road radius arms. So I'll show you some of those. Anyway, I'll have to drive from here and beeline it up to the Brisbane Fall Drive show. But stay tuned, we've got a lot to do. So we'll show you around. But lucky, the guys from Caloff Road have let me use their workshop and all their tools and bits and pieces. So we should get it done easily. I've got my tie rod out at the moment. I've started filming it a bit late. I probably should have filmed this, but these are the new tie rod ends, which go in here. This is a super heavy duty tie rod, by the way. Check the thickness of that. That's hot. That's really hot, because I had to heat to get the old ones out, which one's over here. That's no good. That's what I was driving around in. Lucky I didn't crash and die. So we're going to put those in. Very flash, nice new bit of kit. So we'll get those in. All right, so this is the tie rod that I've taken out. Can you see there and there? Something I should have mentioned earlier before, because I'm not getting a wheel alignment, which is silly, but I just don't have the option to at the moment. I measured my old one from the center of the grease nipple to the center of the grease nipple, whatever it was, and then I also measured the whole overall length just for 2 check measurements. So I'll screw the new ones in, get it as close as I can, and that should keep your wheel alignment pretty straight, being the solid axle. This just ties your 2 back wheels together, so it goes behind everything and ties the 2 front wheels together like that. So we'll chuck this back in. Okay, so I've got my good measurements here. 1233 over to center of grease nipple. So what that is, reason why I do that, because it's easier to hook the tape measure over. Jackson's gone, that's why I'm holding the phone myself. Over the grease nipple. And then to the center of the grease nipple, which is just an easy measurement, 1233. So that tells me that track bar, tie rod, whatever you want to call it, is going to keep my wheel alignment nice. So that goes around here from that hole to the one over there, which you can't see at the moment, and keeps those 2 wheels at a parallel distance apart. Chuck that through there. Oh, it's stuck in my pocket. This is really hard to do with one hand. Okay, through one radius arm, back through the other. If it'll let us. Yep, it will. Now if all goes to plan, this one can go plonk in there. If we've done it right, this should poink straight in there. Perfect. Well, we've done something right. Then I've got my nuts over here. These kind of nuts. That's the old one. Let's use a new one. New dome nut. We'll put that on. All right. Trying to get the old one off, because I didn't show you. Super hard to get off sometimes. So what you need to do is use, if you don't have a ball joint wedge, smack that really hard with a steel hammer so it shocks it. It should ping off. Otherwise, these are really good. Wedge, ball joint wedge. That's what you do. Very self-explanatory. Put that in there like that, then whack it with a hammer, and ping, should come off. So that's the tie rod done. All right, so we're going to use Jackson's separator because my ball joint wedge, the spigot of the ball joint's a bit big, so you can't use the wedge. So we're going to use Jackson's tools and do it properly. Well, I should probably get a bigger hammer, but... There you go. Did you see it pop? So that's how you do it without any pullers or anything. Right, so that drag link's all in. Another good tip before you do it all up, make sure that ball joint's like plumb. See how you can sort of swivel it around, plumb that one up. Come over here, make sure this one's plumb too, and then lock your nuts up so that they're both sitting in a plumb position. That just stops that one from being all the way leant over and that one plumb, or vice versa. All right, so we're going to change the Panhard rod now. Well, actually, we're going to change the bushes, but this is the actual reality of working on four-wheel drives on the ground without a hoist. Sometimes things are too tight. You got to use your feet to get them undone. Yeah, that's what happens. Working on cars is not glamorous. So sometimes you need some leg power to undo things. People do this in workshop and make it look so glamorous. There's a bolt out. It's nice and tight. Good to have a ratchet spanner. My ratchet spanners only go up to 19, not 22. I do have a socket set right next to me.
That'd probably help.
Yeah, but it's no good hitting a ratchet with a hammer.
No. You got it anyway, it's all good.
Yeah. Now, it'll be a wonder to see what these Panhard bushes look like, because this car was driving all over the place before. I think the radius arm bushes will be pretty flogged too. Oh yeah, no wonder.
Huh.
Look how cracked all those bushes are. Probably hard to see in the light, but that's way too big. Look at that. Can you see that bush?
Yeah.
Big crack in it. That's just pushing it with a tiny little 1/4 inch.
And the other end's just as bad. Yeah, right.
That's no good.
Just replacing Dylan's bushes. We're just running the same bush that he's already got in it. They're a vulcanized rubber bush. Just a note, when you're pressing them in and out, the old ones can just get pressed out however you like, pushing down on the inner crush tube. But when you're pushing a new one in, you just got to make sure that when you go to press it in, you want to make sure you're pressing down on the outside bush, not the inner part. Otherwise you'll tear the vulcanization. So just always a good note for anyone that's pushing them back in. So,
like anyone else, you're talking about vulcanization. I've seriously got no idea. Can you tell me what vulcanization means? Like, what's a vulcanized bush compared to a normal bush?
So yeah, good question actually. You've got an inner crush tube and then you've got the outer shell. The outer shell gets pressed into your outer housing of your Panhard bush. What happens is that inner crush tube gets, the term's vulcanization, so it vulcanizes the rubber to the outside shell and the inner crush tube. So it creates this, basically this really strong rubber sealant with the inner and outer parts. So it just means that from like a normal standpoint of running like a poly bush where it's, you can just push the inner crush tube in and out by hand.
Yeah, true.
This is one piece.
Oh, okay.
Fully sealed from like salt water, dirt, dust, anything like that. They're just a good OEM kind of design.
True. So it's basically a one-part
One-piece
bush.
unit,
Yeah,
yeah.
rather than a
If you
metal
go like,
sleeve with a poly slide.
yeah, a few different bush designs that people run, not just on Panhards, but like upper control arms and stuff like that. They'll run like a two-piece bush that will, they just push in each side and they run a crush tube on the middle.
Yeah.
That's good and well, but they wear out pretty quick, whereas these, I mean, these last a long time. I mean, you've been running these for years.
I've had
and
that
years.
Panhard rod in for 6 years. Really, I should have replaced them a little bit ago, but
6 years isn't too bad, and you get a nice rubber bush.
Yeah.
Instead of running something like a poly where it's quite firm, you get in a nice rubber design. So definitely a much better option over that kind of stuff. So
true.
yeah, we'll
Alright.
push them in and out now. We'll just get this press set up because we're pressing in shackle plates, so we'll get them all pressed up now. And yeah, we should be good to go.
Lovely.
Sweet. For this bush in particular, for anyone that didn't understand what we were talking about before in terms of where to press them out from, you're not pressing them out on this inner tube, and you're not pressing them out on the bush part where the rubber is. So this socket doesn't work obviously because it fits right on this inner part, as you can see. So we'll probably run this larger, which I don't know, this is a 1/8. We'll run it on the outer housing, which is good. So
essentially it's pushing on the steel outer
yeah,
rather than the
the
rubber
outer
of the
shell.
bush.
Yeah, so that will just give it a nice even push as well, providing that you've got your surface well prepped and it's not got, you know, bumps and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
not going to press it on a weird angle. That will press evenly out, distribute the load really nicely, so you're not going to get any weird kind of bending. Yeah, so we'll do that now. We'll push them in.
So we're just pushing the other side out just to give you a bit of an idea of tonnage.
Went up to 10, spiked up to 10, now we're down to 5.
So it takes quite a bit of pressure to get these bushes out. See, once it's started it drops right down, but the initial force seriously was over 5 ton to push that out. Okay, so now we've got that Panhard back in with nice fresh new bushes, nice new ends. What we're going to do now is swap the radius arms over. So what I'm going to do it all on the ground. So I've chocked the wheels front and back so that I can take those radius arms out, and then the diff doesn't just roll around. It shouldn't do, but always chock the wheels just in case. So I'll get these nuts and bolts out and I'll check back in a sec. I've got both the radius arms out. Now note, it's very, very important if you're taking the radius arms out to chock your wheels front and rear, because the diff can roll back and forwards now. I also like to put jack stands under the chassis just in case that diff does go hoik and rolls away. At least your car's not going to fall over. But I've just got stitched up because it's just an inconvenience. That Superior Superflex arm doesn't fit over my tie rod that I just put in to get it out. So that arm's staying like that until I get the other arms in, so the diff's all nice and safe. And then I'll have to take off that tie rod again and bring that arm over the end of it. So a bit of a stitch up, but you get that. You get that on the big jobs. All right, so we've got our new radius arms. So you can see, I don't know if that's backwards or not, probably. Cal Off-Road's arms. He's got 5-degree caster built into them, which is good because I needed a bit of extra caster in my Hilux. Much lighter than standard and 1.5 times stronger than a standard arm too. So looks nice. I chose the platinum silver. They also come in a nice satin black too, so they look good. We'll get those chucked in and we'll see what it looks like. So we haven't updated for a while because we've been so busy, haven't we, Jackson?
Yeah, fucking hell. Been very busy.
Got the radius arms in, and now we're moved to the back. We're doing leaf springs. We're going to take the leaf out because I took all my canopy and drawers out, so I've got an empty ute. We're going to do the leaf spring bushes because there's my bush. Just there. They're all falling out. So Jackson's hard at work, getting ready to take this leaf spring out and freshen it all up. So this had a full overhaul, front and rear suspension. Okay.
This is a pretty good example of a pretty worn out bush. Same with that end, but this end's worse.
Damn, that is not ideal at all.
Nowhere near center,
No.
like so far off center. So pretty screwed, eh? Pretty much time for
No wonder she was sloppy and...
It's gonna be fun getting these out, but I mean, yeah, definitely gonna be driving a little bit nicer with some bushes, hey?
All right, so one of the main reasons these bushes have gone is because I run these shackles, which just use a bolt that go through. So
With no, like, yeah, there's a bolt with no greasable nipple on it, so there's no grease going into any of these bushes.
yeah, and I don't pull them apart to grease them because who's got time to do that?
Yeah, pain in the ass.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is, I should have done this ages ago. These are the shackles that I sell with all my kits. They're greasable. So see the little hole? Grease comes out of there into your bushes.
Yeah.
So Jake's over here. Where is he? Over there behind the ladder. He's gonna knock me up a set of the shackles and we're gonna chuck these in. So we'll have a nice greasable bush that'll
It'll
last
be much
a while.
better.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do now is pull a leaf spring out of the leaf pack to derate it to a 300 to 500. At the moment, it's a 500 kilo constant. Obviously, I used to have a canopy and drawers, all my gear in the back, so that thing used to weigh a ton. But now it's got just the hard lid and an empty back. So we want to lighten this up a bit. So all we got to do, take this pin out and slide a leaf spring out. Now, it's not a matter of just taking a random leaf spring out. Jackson's been a big help and worked out what leaf spring it is, so you got some charts and that sort of...
Yeah, we're just going to pull the third leaf down out. It's a pretty common leaf to pull out of these packs. If you're running a medium duty or a heavy duty pack over, these are a Colorado leaf spring, Hilux, Colorado, all sorts of leaves. We just pull the third leaf down, out.
Yeah, I actually did that to my N70 Hilux too, and it was actually the third leaf down as well.
Yeah. It's a pretty common leaf. Generally, we make them the same as the second leaf. So it just is an adder for the weight carrying and lift height. So we can pull that out.
So this is a good representation of development through the Cal Off-Road products. So this is a bush, Cal Off-Road bush from about 6 years ago. If you have a look in here, you've got your grooves which house the grease. So your crush tube here has holes in it. So it goes in, wrong crush tube, but it goes into your bush. Your bushes sort of have a gap like this, and your grease goes up through that and then through all these your little grooves. So this is actually the old bush, so you can see the grooves in there quite small. These are the new bushes. These are a Cal Off-Road part 2.
These are a wider bush, a wider groove design as well, so they're a bit more rolled out over the tops here. And they also have these 3 channels on the inside, which allows grease to retain longer inside the bush with the crush tube. And it also allows it to flow out a little bit easier. So just those small little things, constantly changing to make sure you get the most life out of them.
That's the thing. People think, oh, it's just a bush for a leaf spring, or it's just a bush for a radius arm or whatever, but you sort of don't think about the development, or I suppose people would pick this bush up and go, oh, that's just, you wouldn't have a clue what it's for. You wouldn't know that it's grease channels.
You think it probably just makes it easier to push in or something
exactly.
like that.
So bushes are a sophisticated part, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into them, and not just these bushes, but you know, if you look at the other range, like the SPC, like the X-axis bushes, where they have, like a semi hind joint slash rubber bush inside them. So I mean, it's all about that kind of stuff.
Come a long way, like all the bushings and all that sort of
Starting
stuff.
to really progress into this like really modern technology. So stuff like this are always changing, but this is the latest kind of version of them to make sure we get the most life out of them. So
so a bush is not just a bush, so make sure when you're buying bushes you get quality parts, because honestly I drove down here from sort of like Wollongong area, which is about a 4.5 hour drive, and it was horrible to drive down here because those bushes were gone. It's fine until you hit a bump, and then a bump and it pulls your car left to right. So ride wise, a good quality bush will make all the difference too. So
something as little as bushes changes, makes a massive difference.
For sure.
I mean, we've done Panhard bushes today. Radius arms are done, so that's got new bushes in them as well. And then you've done your tie rod ends, and then now leaf spring bushes. I mean, the car should now track beautifully straight.
It's got all new suspension components, bar shocks, and leaf springs have an overhaul. So
sweet.
Jackson's just locking up the warehouse. We finished. Last night we ended up getting those leaf spring bushes in, and Jackson wanted to go to the pub, so we went and got some beers and had some dinner. So that delayed everything. No, it didn't really. We had everything in and finished last night, but it was sort of late, so we didn't really film anything. So all in all, front radius arms changed to chromoly arms, which is awesome. Tie rod ends, drag link ends, bushes everywhere. Rear leaf springs came out, derated the pack, leaf spring bushes, brand new shackles. So this whole thing has just had a mega overhaul. So thank you very much, Jackson, for spending your whole weekend
All good, all good.
putting all this shit in this car, but it should really transform it.